Should you launch a coaching or consulting business? That's the question we're answering in today's episode of The Profit Pillar Show. I'm your host, Parker Stevenson, CEO of the accounting firm Evolve Finance and author of the book, Profit Pillars. Now, at Evolve Finance, we've been working with coaches and consultants for 14 years, 15 years, I guess, from the time of this recording. My business partner started Evolve Finance back in 2010. And I've been working with coaches and consultants for the past 11 years. They've been a big chunk of the client base that we work with at Evolve Finance. So I know this space really well. I do not have a coaching business. Corey and I have an accounting firm, but we do a lot of coaching with our clients as well. So I know what it means to coach and advise clients. I used to coach and advise every single one of my clients that I served in the early days on a monthly basis. So I got some street cred is what I'm trying to say. And I've seen clients succeed and fail with coaching and consulting businesses. But the industry as a whole has blown up. When I got into this industry back in 2014, I didn't even really know I thought of coach as sports. We'll say that, right? Like business coach was kind of a new concept. I had seen leadership coaches in the corporate world. I saw the executives work with leadership coaches, but that was it. And then I got into the online space and discovered there are coaches for everything. And it's pretty cool to be able to have an interest, have a goal, have something you're trying to achieve, and know that you can go out there and find someone who can help you do it. Someone who's got the experience, got the perspective, got the skills to help you get there. So is building a coaching or consulting business, at least in today's day and age, is it worth it? And I want to go through the pros and cons of this, and then I'm going to give you some questions to ask yourself that will maybe help you decide if you want to put in the legwork to actually build a coaching business, and maybe even help you figure out the direction you need to go down in terms of where to find your customers. Now, there's a lot of pros to coaching and consulting businesses because, well, for a multitude of reasons. Number one, low startup costs. Like I've seen clients build coaching businesses around an Instagram profile, like making multi-six figures, sometimes even seven figures, and they don't even really have a website. It's all on Instagram. So you don't need to build a $30,000 website. You can have a social media presence, a simple website, and you're up and going. Now you got to go find your customers and clients. And a lot of the times, especially if you've had a robust career, right? And you have an expertise in something, I mean, what a phenomenal way to leverage that expertise. Because I think about if you were an expert in the 80s, right? Trying to find customers or those customers find you, it was tough. You had to write a book, which was way harder to get a publishing deal back in the day than it is now. You didn't have social media. You didn't have email. You're just picking up the phone and calling people or going to events, right? In some ways it was simpler, but also in a lot of ways it was a lot more difficult. But if you have knowledge and skills and expertise, then if you're willing to put in the work and take the risk, there's probably a path for you to build a client base. The other thing that I think is just so phenomenal about a business like this is the profit margins are ridiculous. It's so good, especially if it's just you. Like as a consultant, you can make big time money and have very little overhead doing consulting. Now, obviously, there's like huge consulting firms and stuff like that. That's a different story. And we don't work with clients like that. You know, you're talking about companies that are worth hundreds of millions of dollars, if not billions at this point, with some of the biggest consultants in the world. But, you know, just as an individual consultant or a very small consultancy, you know, you can have a small team, don't even need an office, and can have phenomenal profit margins. So, and I also think there's just more awareness of coaches, and I think consumers are more aware that there's people out there that can help them with whatever they're doing, whether it's fitness goals or life goals or business goals, entrepreneurial goals, leadership goals, all that kind of stuff. There's going to be a coach out there that can support you, and people are aware of that more than ever. And I think people understand the value of that more so as well. Now, here's the cons though, because there definitely are cons to any business model. The coaching and consulting world has gotten competitive. Just has, right? With the internet has come an influx of people creating content, starting businesses, and a lot of it is going to be noise, and there is going to be a lot of competition that isn't good and are going to have worse offers or are going to be less skilled than you, but might be better at making content, or at the very least are distracting the potential customers that you want to capture for your business. So it is the reality that, especially like as the economy right now, we're not in a great economy. Unemployment, or at least underemployment, is still pretty rough, and inflation's a thing. So people are looking for ways to build side hustles and to bring in extra income, or try to replace income from losing a job. So that is the challenge, right? Is especially when you get into very generalized coaching areas like life coaching, leadership and executive coaching, business coaching. Those are pretty broad niches that have a lot of people vying for the same customers. And you have some really big players in those industries as well. Now, I know in one of the previous episodes, we talked about scalability, right? And it can be difficult to scale a coaching business or a consulting business beyond just you, but it's doable. It is. You just have to be like, am I willing to develop other coaches and team members so they can serve clients? Am I willing to develop a framework and a perspective that I can teach other people to teach our clients, right? But I think if you're starting a coaching or consulting business, it's not about scaling a business like that to, one day necessarily be sold or go public or get investors. It's really about like, can I use my skill sets to serve people, feel really good about helping the people I can help, and making a hell of a living, right? Like, I don't think a lot of coaches and consultants really care about reaching the peak scalability of their business model if they're making a really healthy 6 or even 7-figure income, and doing so with a business that's pretty operationally simple. Obviously, if you have a 7-figure coaching business or something like that, really doing a lot of one-on-one or small groups or consulting business, working with larger corporations, there's going to be complexity. But in the grand scheme of like thinking about local businesses like a restaurant or manufacturing businesses, like a coaching or consulting business is pretty operationally simple in comparison. But it can be difficult to scale a business that focuses around your skill sets, your expertise, your knowledge. That's where building a framework and being committed to training and developing the team around you becomes really important. And that's just something you have to decide if you want to sign up for. Otherwise, you can make a great living with a full client load, doing one-on-one work with corporate clients or one-on-one general public clients, I guess, for lack of a better word, and making your 6-figure income and living a great life. The other con that I wanted to mention as well is just keeping the steady lead flow. That can take longer than expected. It's really kind of like being a real estate agent, where when you get started, you don't really have a very good lead flow. But once you get a couple clients, if you do good work for them, they might tell someone else. You do good work for them, they tell, and you start to build a little momentum. But it takes can take a long time to make a sale. Could take months to help someone purchase or sell their home. But if you stick with it long enough, eventually the referral momentum builds up. You're making enough money that now you can invest in some marketing and sort of keep the lead gen system, keep it moving. And, years down the road, all of a sudden you're making a killing. But starting out can be slow. It can be tough to get your own customers. And coaching and consulting is very much the same way. And inevitably, clients aren't going to work with you forever, especially, some coaches and consultants can work with clients for a really long time, and that can be massive. But there's usually going to be a need to replace clients, fill up your client load, just get your calendar booked out more with paying clients. And that can take time. And depending on the type of coaching or consulting you do, there probably is going to be an end to your work with each client. So where's the next one coming from? But that's every business, right? Like that's not unique to coaches and consultants. A lot of businesses are worried about, okay, where's my next customer coming from? But just because costs can be low and the startup or the barriers to entry are low, doesn't mean that getting new clients is always going to be super, super easy. But the good thing is there's all kinds of marketing tactics now. Again, so we were just talking about it, social media, right? In the 80s, there was no social media. There was no email. So there's more opportunities to get in front of people. It's just those people all of us are being sold and people are trying to grab, or organizations are trying to grab our attention more than ever. So, how do you figure that out? And welcome to the world of entrepreneurship and business ownership at this point, right? It's a challenge we all have to face. So when it comes to getting started, then I have some questions I think you need to ask yourself, because I think a lot of the times coaches and consultants go, well, you're so focused on the great work you want to do for your client or your customer that you forget there's going to be a load of other BS you got to deal with. And a lot of that, like I just said, is lead gen. So the first question I ask is, do you like content creation? Because if you like creating content, you like podcasting, you like making reels, you like to write, whatever it may be, like that's a big part of coaching and consulting is creating content to attract people to your offer. It could be writing a book, your blog, Substack, whatever it may be, email newsletters, but any form of content creation, video, written, is likely going to be a big part of what you're doing, especially depending on what kind of coach or consultant you are, in order to pull people into your service and into your sales funnel. So depending on who you're serving, you may be signing up to do a lot of content creation. And obviously to create content, you actually have to know what you're talking about. And I think that's where a lot of people especially who want to be coaches, they've read some stuff, gone through a little bit of training, but they don't have enough experience to really speak as an expert. But if you really do have the knowledge, the background, the experience, and the expertise, then the content game should be fairly straightforward, especially if you're at least somewhat comfortable writing or being in front of a camera or speaking in front of a microphone, a la what you're seeing right here or hearing right now. Then you probably will have a good chance of success. But if you're like, I don't want to do content creation, then you might have to go down another lead gen avenue, because this is the modern way to get new clients. Is a lot of people have to do it through content creation. But do you like cold outreach? Because there is a little bit of just like, hey, I'm going to go on LinkedIn. I don't want to be making reels. I don't want to have a podcast, but I'm going to go on LinkedIn or Facebook or wherever, and I'm going to do cold outreach and reach out to my ideal customers and shoot them a message and see if they want to work together, or let them know about my services, or whatever you want to do there. That's also an option. I know that makes a lot of people extremely uncomfortable, but it is an opportunity when you're getting started. Is, go on LinkedIn. Maybe you pay for the extra level of being able to reach out to multiple people per day and people you're not connected with, or email outreach, finding people's websites. Again, it just depends on who your ideal customer is and how you can find them. Are you willing to go find them and send them a message, make a phone call and do a sales pitch? Because that's another avenue to go, but I know that makes a lot of people uncomfortable to think about having to do that. The other thing you can ask yourself is, do you have some money to experiment with ads? I usually do not recommend that new business owners try to get into the ad game, but maybe you have some experience with it. Maybe you have some money to burn and you're like, hey, I can do this. Let's run some ads. It's kind of in the same vein as content creation, except you're paying to get your content in front of people's eyes. But that's another way to kind of build an audience and find people. I find it's a little overkill for coaching businesses. But it depends on the coaching business. We've like at Evolve Finance, we've had a lot of clients with coaching businesses where ads work, but they're usually a higher volume coaching business where they have group programs, a very large mastermind. So ads can kind of make sense. But if you're just getting started, you're like, I just want 5 clients paying me, $1,000 a month to start with. Cool. Then ads are probably going to be overkill. The other thing to consider is, do you have a strong network of ideal customers already, especially I think for consultancies, because a lot of consultants usually come from some sort of industry where they worked in it for a number of years and they go, I know this industry really well and I know who the players are and I know who all the organizations are. I'm going to reach out to those organizations or go to some events where those people are at and let them know I'm doing consulting now and do you need some help with stuff? And I think that's completely or I'll say that's a very common, I would say, way a lot of consultants start out is they want to branch out on their own. They don't want to work for an organization anymore. They'd rather support a multitude of organizations. And I think for consultants, and it can be true for coaches as well, that's a great way to get started. It's still a little bit of kind of cold outreach, like we said before, but networking, using your network you already have, if applicable, right? Like I think that can be huge. Like when you already have relationships with people and you have skills or an offer that other people would value or need, I mean, that's where I think a lot of people are able to take the leap into consulting or coaching because they know like it's there, like I see it, versus just going, I got these skills and now let's go out in the world and see if anyone needs them. If you can really see the need super clearly and you have a network of people around you who could be potential customers, especially from your past career, I think that's huge. And then the other thing I think is important to consider is, can you coach on the side until you get enough customers to quit your job? Because I think given everything we just talked about, again, the pros are low startup costs, you get to leverage skills and knowledge you already have, profit margins can be really high. It still doesn't negate the fact that it's competitive out there, and keeping a steady flow of clients is tough. So, I know for some people, they go, I'm jumping in head first. And I get it. Makes sense, right? If you can put your full attention into your new venture, if you're utilizing your time wisely, you're probably going to speed up the process of getting a full client load. Not always, because as human beings, we tend to waste our time on things that don't really matter. And when you're new, you're not sure what to focus on. But if you're someone who's like, I know what I'm doing, I know what I need to do, I'm going to go grind, make this happen, then great, quit your job, go take the leap of faith. If it doesn't work out, you go get another job. But I know for a lot of people, can you work your job, start doing some coaching or consulting on the side, and build some momentum that way first? There's nothing wrong with doing it that way. The amount of clients I've talked to at Evolve Finance, at our accounting firm, that started their businesses doing that, there's a lot. I've talked to a lot of people where that's how they started their business. They didn't just jump in head first into the deep end. So that's just something I think is really important to consider as well. But so much of this is, do you know yourself? Are you aware of your strengths, your weaknesses? Because the more you understand yourself and you have this self-awareness, the more you can figure out, all right, what's the right move for me? What's the right way to build up my customer base? What's the right way I want it to, or what's the way that makes sense for me to show up for my clients and take advantage of the strengths and opportunities I have in front of me? But if you're not honest with yourself about that, chances are it's not going to work out great for you. But I'm never against anyone betting on themselves, taking a leap of faith, as long as you're not putting yourself in a worse situation afterwards, which could be significant debt, hurting relationships that are important in your life in order to take this big leap of faith. But I think for most people, as long as you have the support of your spouse or partner, if you have one and you're aligned there and you're not being completely financially irresponsible, and you know that like I can always go get a job, then why wouldn't you try? Why wouldn't you give this a shot? Because there's so many wonderful benefits that come with starting any sort of business, but I think especially a coaching and consulting business, if you really love people and you love to help other people, it can be extremely rewarding. But got to know your numbers, got to make sure that you're building up some financial literacy. So if you are thinking about starting any kind of business, let alone a coaching or consulting business, check out my book, Profit Pillars. It's literally the book on numbers, on money, on finance, on just general business strategy for business owners, especially for coaches and consultants. So go check out Profit Pillars anywhere books are sold online. But I hope that was helpful. Thank you for watching it. Thank you for watching. Thank you for listening, and we'll see you in the next episode.